Welcome back, everyone. It is LaughNgamez here, and today we're back with another Starcraft 2 1 vs 1 replay. Today we have ourselves a Terran versus Protoss on the map Frozen Temple. So, spawning up in the bottom right, we have Top playing for True Esports, and spawning in the bottom right, we have TAiLS. So, we've got ourselves a Terran versus Protoss between two Korean players who are more of the unknown players who haven't had the best results recently or in the past, because, and this is actually fairly significant because TAiLS was said to be retired for a bit, but seems he's coming back out and trying to be a pro gamer again, but he's currently teamless. So we've got ourselves a 1 versus 1 map spawn. So the players know exactly where each other's spawning, and we actually have Top going for a wall off on the low ground of this map, which is interesting. It's a very easy to wall off. At first it was harder, but then Blizzard changed it, so now it's much more easy to wall off this map here. So we've got Top going for a wall off at the low ground, and TAiLS is actually moving out with a pro up to the top, looking for a proxy likely, or possibly going to be going for his own later on. But seems he's just scouting for a proxy, making sure that there's no barracks being hidden around the map. But the only weird barracks placement here is Top walling off on the low ground, which isn't exactly common these days, but it's not unheard of. So we have TAiLS going for that Nexus after he just scouted out to make sure everything's safe. Still very paranoid here and playing it very safe, scouting out this probe, making sure there's nothing hidden. TAiLS is mining on one gas with 3 probes now. Is just on 2 for a bit, but now he's gone up to 3rd. He's starting another gas here, so really leaving his options open, not going to be going for a 4-gate or anything like that, seemingly. And we've got Top, unsurprisingly, going for a command center on the low ground here, as if he wasn't going for a command center, why would he go for the wall off on the low ground? Going into a Reaper expand. Now Top playing it safe as well, having his Reaper just patrol out the front here, not actually going for that instant scout here, so he's sort of paranoid of something coming across the map, but this is sort of unusual for Reapers. Usually a Reaper wants to go across the map immediately, see what the Protoss is up to, but I guess Top playing it extra safe, well, safe in a different way, is he wants to keep this Reaper at home to defend because he does not have any units out. I guess as soon as he starts making these Marines, he'll send the Reaper across the map. There we go, now he's moving out, scouting with it, making sure there's nothing going on. No started proxies or anything, when really we just have an Adept moving out across the map. Adept's quite common after an expansion. And going into a quick robo for TAiLS here, so TAiLS seemingly wanted to take this into the later game, or maybe not. He's going into a lot of tech here. He's going for a Twilight and a robo at the 3-minute mark, with only 1 gate and only 1 Adept, which is across the map. So playing it quite greedy tech-wise is TAiLS. Going to be relying on this Mothership core for defense. Well, he just gets out lots of tech. Probably going to want to throw down another gas in a second here, I assume, if he is going to be playing tech-heavy here. Meanwhile, Top just macroing up, throwing up an actual bunker in front. So this is some weird placement coming out of Top. Normally you'd want the bunker to be further back for defense, but I guess this is, maybe he knows something we don't know. Actually, one of the Marines was injured. Did that Adept go down? I'm sorry if I missed that. Yeah, I guess that Adept went down for Top. Top managed to pick that off. Not sure if he lost any units here that we can see. 125 resources lost, so that Adept did in fact go down as it was poking at the front, and Top not losing anything so far. Even this Reaper is still alive. Just where'd that Reaper get to? Okay, so the Reaper did just go down after going in to get a scout to see exactly what was going on here. Sees the robo, sees the Twilight, sees 1 gateway being put up, possibly more, and now we've got the Warp Prism, which is actually out for TAiLS, so TAiLS definitely going to be going for some aggression here. Getting out that Resonating Glaives here, getting up lots of gateways, so this is going to be a also common mass Adept Warp-in, which we see by Protoss, using the high utility of the Warp Prism, being able to pick up units from afar, and sort of drive a Terran player nuts by being able to hit in so many different places. Now Top pulling back to his main base, probably seen this observer shimmer here, so he might scan and pick that off in a second, but he's really just playing it safe. But these Adepts are actually gonna, it seems that some Adepts are gonna try to shade in as TAiLS, sorry, pardon me, goes in with the Warp Prism at the back, gonna start picking off SCVs. It takes 3 shots from an Adept, and he's got 3 Adepts to start picking off workers. He's gonna force the Terran player to pull back into his base, and it's gonna cancel these shades, so he's buying more time at the natural. But Top playing this very cautiously, very safe, splitting up his units, which is the right choice here, because TAiLS wasn't actually going for some large attack at this current moment. Because if he was, Top would want to have all his units consolidated. But now we see TAiLS warping in a lot of Stalkers here. Now, he does not have Blink. He's starting to research it, but it's quite a whiles off, so this is likely going to be a large attack on the front here. Top does have the 1 Marauder in the bunker, but no SCVs are going to be able to get to repair this bunker in time, likely. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this attack plays out. Meanwhile, Top is just teching as Terrans do. He's getting up lots of barracks, starting to get out medivacs, getting stem. Well, I believe he already has stem. Yep, he has that stem. So, Top is starting to tech, but he's down in supply, he's down in workers, he's pinned on 2 bases, but he scans and sees TAiLS. This is very important. He knows TAiLS is going to be going for an attack or some other sort of shenanigans, because there is no 3rd base here for TAiLS, and Top knows this. Now, the Widowmine seemingly killed off 1 Adept that TAiLS dropped into the main base, but that was simply just a diversion. TAiLS is pushing him through the front base, but this Liberator is such an important defense tool. That bunker bought enough time because TAiLS had to deal with that. So Top sieging up the Liberator now still has a solid wall off with these supply depots. The Adepts can't just shade in. Moving his Widowmine, but there is an Observer, and the Widowmine actually going to do a bit of friendly fire to that Medivac as it does hit that Observer. Now, so it seems that Top has held this attack, and TAiLS knows this. He's teching himself. He's getting up a 3rd base. He's getting up another Warp Prism, so he's going to be on 2 Warp Prisms, or did he lose his first one? Pardon my observing skills, but it seems he did lose his first Warp Prism. So it must have been that Widowmine in the main base that took that down. That Widowmine and something else. So that was very huge for Top. TAiLS couldn't warp in on this side of the map anymore to defend, but another Warp Prism is coming, so TAiLS might be wanting to commit more to this attack, but 2 Liberators is a lot of damage. That's shooting a Stalker. That can kill a Stalker or an Adept every with the weapon speed of 1.14, so that is some very serious damage they can do. Now we see Top actually coming in with a big drop. Now, Adepts were warped in earlier to sort of deal with this, but he's still managed to get a good amount of units killed. He has killed 8 workers here, so that's very good for Top, because there wasn't a pylon beside this Nexus to hold it off. So we've got TAiLS with the Mothership Core trying to defend, but did take a fair bit too much damage there, so this is putting TAiLS in a bad spot, especially since he didn't get as much damage right off the bat as he wanted to do. Now this is interesting. We're seeing a Ghost Academy coming out of Top, because he might be expecting high Templar tech coming fast. He might be expecting really anything, and Ghosts are just great units overall. He could be going for Cloak to maybe try and catch the Protoss off guard here, but Ghosts with their EMPs are just very good versus Protoss armies in general, because they take off the shields, and he's actually making 3 at a time. That is so much money. That is 900 resources in Ghosts, which is simply absurd. Now Top knows TAiLS knows he's a bit behind, and you know what they say, when behind Dark Shrine, but Top should sort of expect this, and he's getting Ghosts, which could EMP Dark Templar. He's on 3 CC? No, Top is actually still only on 2 CCs, so he's not doing very well in the economy department, so he is going to have to get some damage done here pretty soon, or get up a 3rd CC, because he is starting to mine out on his main base. He'll be starting to mine out on his natural base here soon. Like, look at this, these mineral patches are getting so bare. So Top possibly going to want to float his main base to his 3rd base later on in this game. And now we actually see 2 Adepts coming in here for TAiLS, likely going to warp in more, and he's warping in more Adepts. He might warp in DTs, because the Stark Shrine does finish in 11 seconds, so And Top has really no units back at the main base. He's sending in a Ghost, but a Ghost will be taken down by 3 Adept, and that is such an expensive loss here. It kills off 1 Adept, but that is simply not enough. SCVs are going down for Top, but meanwhile on this side of the map, Top moving in, getting EMPs off on this whole army, and he's going to manage to pick off his third base. There's simply not enough. No TAiLS warping in like 5 Dark Templar here, which is, if Top doesn't have a scan, he's going to be in a world of hurt. So these DTs are starting to go to work, chasing back this army. Top's army is dropping very fast. 3 Immortals do a lot of damage, which TAiLS has. You know, Top running around, managed to pick off one of the Immortals and all the other units. The 2 Liberators and 2 Mines are still there, so Top is managing to sort of secure this position, but really it's still 2 bases versus 2 bases, which I'd say in this situation does favor Top, but Top has lost a lot of SCVs. He's down to 28, which is not a lot for 10 minutes into the game. But TAiLS, not on a healthy economy either, really, but TAiLS has Dark Templars and a Dark Shrine, which is very effective for a Protoss at this stage in the game because it forces out scans, and on a low economy game, Terran wants to be dropping all these mules instead of having to bank scans and bank energy. See, this DT even coming in, picking off a missile turret, forcing out a scan, which is arguably worth the cost because it, just sending out 1 DT at a time, like TAiLS is doing, forces out a scan after another scan after another scan, and eventually Terran might run out of scans, and Top is at TAiLS, sorry, their 2 names start with a T here, is actually starting to pick off units, forces out yet another scan here. He's got another DT, and remember, Top is only on 2 command centers, so he can't be throwing down lots of scans. 3 CCs can scan quite frequently, but that's not that much. Now, so TAiLS is on quite a terrifying army here. He's force fielding off the army of Top at the top of the ramp, but he does not have enough air units to take down these Liberators. But 2 pylons and the Mothership Force, still with plenty of energy, is going to be able to hold off this army of Top. And Top still wants to get some damage done. He's ahead in army supply, but really, the army of TAiLS is quite terrifying on 1-1 upgrades versus 1-1. So they're on equal footing in that regard. And Top doesn't have a large amount of bio, whereas TAiLS has 3 Immortals, and Immortals are very effective in small army situations like this. I mean, it's not a tiny army situation, but Immortals are very good, because if Terran wants to focus down these Immortals, they can activate their barrier, which makes them so strong, and a Terran will bleed off tons of units trying to pick off these high damage Immortals. Now, a bunch of Stalkers blinking forward, picking off a Liberator. 1 Stalker for 1 Liberator here. Top is parade pushing across the map. A mine goes off, picks off a unit there, but TAiLS is Top is pushing in. This is the first cast I've done with 2 players with a similar name. Now, TAiLS blinking in, trying to pick off a Medivac, a Liberator, anything here and there, abusing the mobility of these Stalkers. Now, Top is starting to get quite a scary army, and this might be an overextension by TAiLS. He's going to need to throw down some force fields to hold this army back. More depth are coming into the front, but TAiLS is going to be losing lots of units here. 2 Immortals have gone down. The shields on this one has been burned also, so this one might be picked off, and it seems, yes, that Immortal is going to go down now. Top, I said earlier, he was starting to build up a bigger army. That has been shed off. These units need to heal up. 2 more Liberators coming across the map, which is very crucial for TAiLS. TAiLS opting, okay, I'm going to warp in more depths, but he does not even have an observer out, so this mine, if he tries to back up, he's going to be hit by a mine. He's sort of caught between a rock and a hard place here once this mine resets, and he's actually sitting on top of this Widow mine here. So TAiLS can't really go forward in this situation, and we actually have Top moving out with his Medivacs, elevating over these rocks, going to want to catch TAiLS out of guard. Okay, an observer has come forward, so he picks off that mine. Now these Liberators and Ghosts are very exposed. TAiLS has enough Blink Stalkers to pick those off if he chooses to, and TAiLS would likely do that if he knew those units were not there, but he doesn't know, though these units are positioning around the map to try and get any damage done. Now we see, as I said earlier, Top is coming across with the 3rd base, floating it over, probably going to drop quite a few mules here, transferring SCVs. So he's now on a 2-base economy, whereas really TAiLS is on a 2-base economy as well. So they're quite equal. Now we actually see TAiLS starting to make that investment. He's getting up the Templar Archives. He's getting his 2-2 upgrades, which means he's ready to take this to the next stage of the game now. TAiLS likely wants to throw down a pylon or 2 next to this Nexus to defend. Now we actually have Ghosts throwing down EMPs on this army as it's forcing an engagement with TAiLS. TAiLS losing a lot of units here. All these Stalkers dying to pick off the Liberators, but all the Liberators do go down. Now these Adepts are so tanky and do not die very quickly to Marauders, but the Ghosts are very good versus these light Adepts, but 1 Archon is very tough, so TAiLS is going to want to try to hang on with the skin of his teeth. Lots of probes are starting to go down. Top trying to get any damage he's done, but Marauders are not the best at doing these hit-and-run techniques. Great EMPs going down, then focus firing down this Archon. Now Top seemingly going to go to the main base, but now he's trapped here. Stalkers are on the left, Stalkers are on the right in the main base, and TAiLS is prepared for this. Now we actually see the vision of top. He knows stalkers are on the right. He knows stalkers are on the left. And he's going to boost out to try to escape, and which is the right call because TAiLS has pulled back to defend his nexus. And now TAiLS wanting to know if these units are still there, but they have already left and are on their way back to retreat. Now, we see 23 SCVs mining off this third base from top. It is getting a bit oversaturated. He's dropping lots of mules. So if we look at the income here, it's quite a lead for top because of all these mules and all these SCVs that are on a fresh third base. TAiLS did get his third base before, so TAiLS is in a worse economic situation, as he is going to start to mine out this third base. Not super quick, but relatively soon. It is something he'll have to deal with in the upcoming future. Now, we have the 2-2 coming out of TAiLS. He never actually opted to get Storm, so he's just going to stick with Archons from this Templar Archives. Now we see top starting to tech more as well. He's thinking, okay, I'm going to need to get my 2-2 upgrades eventually, because he is still only on 1-1. So right now TAiLS does have a good economic lead, but it seems top is coming across the map to try and do any damage he can with this superior number of units. He's got a greater army supply. He's got great units here. 2 Ghosts and Widow Mines are actually very effective versus this composition. TAiLS really is only on gateway units, and this 4th Nexus might force him to take a really bad fight. I don't think TAiLS can secure this. No, he can't, so he cancels it. Still no pylons up at this third base for TAiLS to defend if needed, and this mothership core is on full energy, so he wants to really use those whenever he can. Now we actually see TAiLS pushing forward with these Blink Stalkers, forcing the bio to stim away and burn that stim. Blinking forward with these Stalkers is so dangerous here, but TAiLS seems to know just how to do it right. Doesn't want to blink right on top of the army, but just sort of force them to pull back here. And now we've got quite a few medivacs for top, so he's healing up that army quite well, and TAiLS is deciding, okay, I've pushed you back, time to try and secure my 4th base again. Meanwhile, top floating over his natural to get his 4th base here. So it's going to be, once again, 2 base economy for top really now versus only 1 base economy for TAiLS. So TAiLS is going to need to get this nexus up and defend it, but he's down in army supply here. And top has tons of gas, by the way, so really getting units that cost mainly gas is a good idea for him, so he can make lots of things like Liberators or really anything that takes lots of gas. So he picks off a Widow Mine here, which is something top really can't afford to lose, as TAiLS is starting to get quite a scary army. Sure, top is up in army supply, but these Adepts with Resonating Glaives and 2-2 upgrades versus 1-1 is quite scary. He's got 2 Archons and Immortal, but a great EMP did go off for top, so TAiLS is going to pull back. He wants to regen those shields. And just more and more Adepts coming out for TAiLS here. He's starting to even that gap in army supply. The worker supply is still even, but the income does favor top for sure, simply due to the fact that there is mules for the Terran and 2 fresh bases. Okay, so now the 4th base finishing up for TAiLS. He's seemingly secured this, but for how long, we're not sure. Top is playing back, playing it passive. He's thinking, okay, you're just getting up a 4th base, and TAiLS sending in an Adept. Scout gonna lose that, and every unit matters here when it comes, if it does come down to a big fight here. Now, top playing defensive, sending some units to that 4th base, doesn't want to be harassed or anything, and the harassment in this game really has died down. We haven't seen a drop or a warp prism moving across the map for a while. Top getting the 2-2 upgrades. Meanwhile, TAiLS is just continuing to mass these gateway units, and it seems he might actually be trying to go in for a big attack, but this is a lot of bio and medivacs with the ghost support is actually going to be quite terrifying for top. These Archons and Adepts rely a lot on their shields, so these EMPs are going to be so critical. EMPing so many of the Adepts. TAiLS moving in on top of this army, but it seems that the Adepts are just melting even though they're so tanky. Stalkers are not very efficient versus all these Marines and Marauders, but it seems that it's so close here. The Marauders are just holding strong with so much medivac support. Just Blink Stalkers versus Marauders, and TAiLS has to pull back. He's lost all his Adepts, and the Marauders are giving chase because that Blink is on cooldown, so he's bleeding off quite a few Stalkers, and really now he's down to literally just Stalkers. 38 army supply versus 72. Warping in more Adepts to try and hold us off. Warping in another 5 Adepts. It might be time to try and warp in some DTs here to try and come back, but he's seemingly forgot about those and is sticking with just the Adepts. But it seems top might have gone a bit forward here, as not all his units are over on this side of the map, but they continue to rally forward, and top taking a great fight at the top of this ramp. TAiLS trying to engage up, but it seems he's not going to have enough. Top might be able to push through and kill TAiLS here. He's certainly seemingly doing it here. TAiLS getting desperate. Warping and Zealous does have a pylon here for the Photon Overcharge, which is so critical in these lower army fights, but Top is just starting to mass up on units. His 2-2 is going to be finishing up soon. Picking off the gases, starting to disrupt mining on his fourth base. The Photon Overcharge going down top, diving in on top of it, but it seems there's just not going to be enough coming out of here from TAiLS. No more pylons to overcharge. TAiLS pulling the probes for a last-ditch effort. More adepts are coming in. He's chasing out his bio, but this bio is starting to pick off workers. Tons and tons of probes have gone down to 29 probes versus 44 workers, so even if TAiLS does manage to hold this, it's not going to be enough, and he is not going to hold this. The Mothership Core goes down. The Stalkers are blinking back, and sure, all the fancy Blink Micro in the world will not save you there. So that was a great Terran versus Protoss here from TAiLS versus Top. TAiLS sticking on that gateway unit tech, as we've seen more in Legacy of the Void from Protoss players, which I think is actually an amazing thing to see here. We don't see those death balls nearly as much in the Terran versus Protoss matchup. Is much more enjoyable to watch, really. We see more straight up engagements like that. Okay guys, so thank you for watching. This has been another StarCraft 2 replay by me. I've been doing quite a few of these, so likes are appreciated, casting feedback is appreciated, as I'm really trying to improve, and I shall see you next time.